Good morning. Good morning. For the next 3 weeks, we are going to unpack what matters most. And we're going to do it in a building series, meaning that each week we are going to build off of the foundation or the step that we learned the previous week. And so I want to encourage you to get here. I know Thanksgiving is coming up, and some of us might have some travel plans. So if you can't be here, I encourage you to watch online so that way we can continue to learn and we can grow together as a community. Now, throughout this series, I'm also going to challenge us each week to implement the principle into our lives, to implement a new rhythm in our lives from what we looked at. And we're gonna have the opportunity each week to participate and to practice that principle together in service. And so I have great and big expectations on what God is gonna do. So let's ask him to speak to us this morning. Father, that is our ask. I ask that you speak to us. We are here, we are listening, we are anticipating and expectant to hear from you. And so, Father, I just pray that you be the words that is spoken. I pray that you have us hear with our ears what it is that you desire to share. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, before I became a pastor and I started working in ministry, I had a career in the corporate world, and I worked in the financial services industry. And a couple of weeks ago, I ran into an old coworker of mine, and we started to reminisce about something that I had on my desk at my old office. I had a rocking horse. It was not this one, it was not this obnoxious and this big, but I had a rocking horse. And we were reminiscing about how sometimes when we would sit together as a team, how sometimes we just wouldn't say anything and we would turn around and we would just hit the rocking horse. You see, the company was busy. The department was busy. Our team was busy. I was busy. And the rocking horse signified that the projects that we were talking about, the work that we were looking at as we were prioritizing, that we would need to reprioritize when we would hit the rocking horse, because the rocking horse signifies something that if you put a lot of effort into it and you put some momentum into it, it will start rocking, but it does not move forward. The rocking horse stays in one place. And so as a team, although we were looking at putting a lot of time and energy and effort into something, there would be a lot of push, but no progress. There would be a lot of production, but no progressing. Do you ever feel like you're working really hard, but you stay stuck in one place? I think on some level we can all relate because we all have rocking horse work in our lives, and not all rocking horse work is bad. As a matter of fact, the majority of the rocking horse work in our lives is necessary. No matter how many times we do the dishes or we do the laundry, we're gonna have to do it again. No matter how many times you cut the grass or no matter how many times you need to taxi the kids from one place to another, you're always gonna have to do it again. We all have important and necessary things that need to be done and things that we are expected to do that come with the territory of life. My student athletes, for you to play on the team, you are expected to maintain a certain grade point average and to have good conduct in your academic classes, right? For those of you who play in a band or perform in the theater, sing in the choir, you are expected to attend hours and hours of rehearsals. For us at work, we are no longer just have to meet expectations to get a good performance review. We have to exceed expectations. To be a good spouse, we must do things that keep us in partnership and to have a good marriage. My teacher friends, to be a good teacher, you have to decorate your classroom. You have to learn the new standardized tests. You have to go to all of the meetings. You have to deal with the parents. And that's on top of teaching the children. Parents, for us to support our wonderful teachers and to be good parents, we have to do the fundraisers, attend the PTA meetings, remember to bring the diorama to the kid to build the kids' thing the night before because they didn't tell you ahead of time. And we have to remember picture day. And we have to make our kids look good. Oh my gosh, y'all. I forgot picture day at school this year. and we just got the proofs back. And let's just say, I will not be winning any Mother of the Year awards this year. But I digress. We are talking about rocking horse work, and rocking horse work comes with life. And here come the holidays, a time of year when the expectations and pressures to perform can be compounded. There's the pressure of making something good for the potluck at work that doesn't give food poisoning to all of your coworkers. There's the getting cookies for the school, the camping, and standing in line for good tamales, because what are the holidays without the good tamales, right? Cleaning the house for guests, making sure you don't re-gift something to the same person that gave it to you last year. These are important and necessary things that come with life, and we are all busy. We all have rocking horse work that comes with high expectations, and no matter what your rocking horse work looks like in your life, one thing that we all have in common is that the list is never done, right? There's always going to be more. And when life has us focused on rocking our rocking horses back and forth, it can be hard for us to see what matters most. And we are not alone in this. This is not a new problem. This has been a problem for thousands of years. And today, we are going to look at what Jesus says on how we can prioritize what matters most. As Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. Her sister, Mary, sat at the Lord's feet, listening to what he taught, but Martha was distracted by the big dinner that she was preparing. So let's zoom out real quick. Jesus was really good friends with Martha and Mary, and he and his disciples were traveling from one city to the next when Martha was like, hey, you're in my neck of the woods. Why don't y'all just come on by and have dinner? You know, a casual dinner for like an extra 13 people, no big deal, right? Y'all, has your spouse ever called you or texted you in the middle of the day to let you know that a few friends were gonna be coming over for dinner, like no big deal? Or maybe have your parents or your adult children just called you and they're just like, hey, we're on the way. We'll be right there. Like when that happens, what's the first thing that starts to happen in your mind? The list of things that have to get done starts popping off, right? Like, I don't know about you, but me, I'm walking around and I'm like, okay. I need to stop by the store and I start going around and I'm like, oh, I need to do the dishes. Oh my gosh, I've got to put away the laundry. I've got to clean the counters. I got to dust. Oh my gosh, I need new floors and I need to paint the walls. I need to remodel the entire house. Oh my gosh. Anybody else? No, that sounded like that was just me. Okay, well, if you can't relate to that, that's what happens in my head. Welcome into the thoughts of Michelle. But here's maybe something that you can relate to. Those of you who are parents of teenagers, do you have any parents of teenagers? Any parents that have had teenagers and are willing to go back to that space with me for just a moment? Okay, what is the first thing that happens, especially with teenage boys, when your teenager comes to your house and their friends are there? Where's the first place they go and what's the first thing they do? Oh my gosh, yes. They go straight to the fridge and they open the fridge. It is like this universal programming that happens with teenage boys. It's like, what is there to eat? Okay, Jesus had 12 disciples with him. And at this time, Jesus' 12 disciples were all teenagers. So there were 12 teenage boys that show up into Martha's house, and they've been traveling from one city to another, and so they're hungry. And I know I'm kind of making a little bit light of it and poking a little bit fun, but what we have to understand is that this would have been incredibly important to Martha. You see, at this time, there were very high expectations that were put on women to host well. This is how women served, and for Martha, this would have been how she showed Jesus her devotion. This would have been how she served and honored Jesus. So Martha was there and she wanted to serve and to honor him well. So she's going back and forth and she's getting everything ready to be done for dinner. And out of the corner of her eye, she looks over and she sees her sister Mary just sitting there, chilling, hanging with the guys. And she came to Jesus, Martha, came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. Oh, y'all. I feel Martha in my bones. Like, my natural reaction is just like Martha's. There's work to be done. We got things to do. Let's get to it. We're doing this for the Lord. Why aren't you helping me? And Martha, our friend Martha here, she's bold. She is not playing. She goes straight up to Jesus and she is doing her best to get Jesus on her side. She goes up to him, not just Jesus, in front of his 12 disciples, his 12 students, and her sister who is sitting there, and she even throws in a rhetorical question. Doesn't it seem unfair to you? And she didn't even wait for Jesus to answer. I love it. Before she straight up tells Jesus what she wants him to do about it. Tell her to come and help me. Because what I'm doing is right. What I'm doing is necessary. What I'm doing is important. And she isn't doing what I am doing, and that's not fair. So Jesus, you tell her to come and help me. Is there anybody else willing to admit that maybe they see a little bit of themselves in Martha? Maybe a lot of bit? Is there anyone else that is willing to admit that their conversations with Jesus sound something like throwing up rhetorical questions or complaints or a problem that we are facing or expectations we're stressed about meeting, and then giving orders to Jesus about what we want him to do about it? Jesus, it's not fair that I work harder than everybody else on my team, but Sally's the one that got promoted. Tell them to give me a raise. Jesus, doesn't it seem unfair that I'm expected to help care for my aging parents when they didn't do much to care for me when I was a child? Tell them to figure it out themselves. Jesus, don't you see how unfair it is that I work all day and when I come home, my spouse expects me to cook and to clean and to feed the children and to meet their needs and to look good doing it? Jesus, you need to fix him. Jesus, you need to fix her. Jesus, I go to church. I pray. I even give to the poor, but yet my mental health continues to get worse and to worse. It's just not fair. Jesus, tell me, why are you letting this happen to me? Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister just sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. There is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. Martha was frantically on her rocking horse, going back and forth, getting all of the details done for the dinner. And Jesus responds to Martha with all of his kindness and all of his compassion. And notice that in his response, he leads with their relationship. And he leads with love and affection for her. My dear Martha. Now, if Jesus was Hispanic, he would have said, mija. Mija, linda, chula, preciosa. You are worried and upset. Now notice that Jesus isn't taking anything away from the importance of what Martha is doing. What she is doing is very important. The food still had to be prepared. The table still had to be set. Dinner still had to be made. And Jesus understands the desire for Martha that she has to be a great hostess. So he's not taking anything away from the importance of what she is doing. What Jesus is addressing is what is happening to Martha on the inside while she is doing all of the work on the outside. You are worried and upset. Now, in Greek, the original language that the Christian scriptures are written in, a more direct translation of what Jesus is saying right here is, I am expressing care for you because you are anxious, troubled in mind, and disquieted. Isn't that such a rich word? The rocking horse work of life, the important and necessary things that have to get done on the outside can disquiet us on the inside. They can steal our peace and create anxiousness and worry. And Jesus says there is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. You see, Mary wasn't just sitting around and being lazy. She was sitting at the feet of Jesus. She was listening to him. She was learning from him. She was being fully present with him. Was there work to be done? Yes. Was that work important? Yes. Did the work matter? Absolutely. But what did all of the work and the busyness create in Martha? Anxiousness and worry and disquieting. And Martha was so frantically rocking the rocking horse that she loses the big picture. And Jesus lovingly shifts her focus and helps her see and understand what matters most. We can get so caught up in the busyness of life and the demands that we have to meet and the expectations we have to fulfill, and some of them are absolutely necessary and they're extremely important. Dinner's still gotta get made, the dishes still need to be done, the yard still needs to get mowed, kids still need to be taxied, the project at work still has the deadline, and the holidays are still coming. But the question is, while we are doing all of the things that we need to do on the outside, what is happening to us on the inside? Do you feel like you are sitting on a rocking horse, expending a whole lot of energy, but you're stuck in the same place? Are you disquieted? Are you worried? Are you anxious? Are you upset? Are you short-fused? Do you feel claustrophobic by the responsibilities of life? When you look around, are you focused on what everybody else isn't doing and wanting to declare that it's just not fair? I have been in that place more times than I care to admit. And maybe you have too. Maybe you're in that place today. And what we can't miss is the truth that Jesus shared with Martha over 2,000 years ago is just as true for us today. Prioritizing our presence at the feet of Jesus over the rocking horse work of life is what matters most, because at the feet of Jesus is where our worries can be quieted. At the feet of Jesus is where our anxiousness can turn to peace. At the feet of Jesus is where our anger can turn to joy. At the feet of Jesus is where we can safely exhale and leave the pressures of the expectations of this life behind. At the feet of Jesus is where the noise of this life can be quieted. At the feet of Jesus is where we can take our mask off of everything is fine, and we can be raw and real and fully loved. At the feet of Jesus is where we find replenishment for our weary souls. At the feet of Jesus is where we get off our rocking horse and we begin to move forward. And this is what Jesus was trying to show Martha. He wanted her presence, not her performance. And the same is true for you today. Jesus wants your presence, not your performance. And friends, this is at the foundation of what matters most. Now, throughout this series, I'm going to challenge us to put new practices and rhythms in our life that will help us focus on what matters most. And each week, we're going to have the opportunity to practice them together. And this week, we're going to practice sitting at Jesus' feet and being fully present. Because the reality is the busyness of life is never going to stop. There's always going to be another rocking horse that's demanding our attention. And I know it can be difficult to set aside time to sit at Jesus' feet. I have to constantly remind myself that what Jesus wants is my presence, not my performance. So my challenge for you and my challenge for me today is that we would spend 2 minutes fully present with Jesus twice a day. Once in the morning, and then once any other time during the day that you think you need it. Maybe for you, it's at lunchtime, just to get through the second half of your workday. Or maybe it's before your kids get home from school or your spouse gets home from work, or maybe it's right before you go to bed. But whenever is right for you, I want you to prioritize time where you can create a space and you can get quiet and you can clear your mind the best that you can and you can be fully present with Jesus. Now, I know when I practice this, when I do this, I always picture myself sitting shoulder to shoulder with Jesus. And we're watching a sunrise or we're watching a sunset together. And sometimes, on really hard days, I picture myself sitting with my head in Jesus' lap and him just stroking my hair. But you pick your place, and I want you to meet with him and to just be fully present. And right now, we're going to practice doing this together. Even if you don't fully know about Jesus, even if you're just starting to check him out, I invite you to participate during this time. Because there's one thing that I do know. It doesn't matter how you feel about wanting to sit with him. I know he wants to sit with you. And so we're going to take some time and do this together. And I want to invite you to create some space around you. You're free to come and use the prayer pillows if you so choose. And I just invite you to try to quiet your mind the best that you can. And close your eyes and try to create a distraction-free environment. Inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Now picture yourself in a really peaceful place, a place that brings you peace and calm. And inhale. Exhale. Now picture Jesus coming and sitting right with you. Picture yourself at his feet. Inhale. Exhale. Now picture just being fully present. You're fully present with him and he is fully present with you. Inhale. Exhale. And I invite you to stay fully present with Jesus for these next few moments.
Gone through the motions, I'm sorry. When I just sang another song, take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to when we started. I open up my heart to you. Caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. No, I'm not here for blessings. No, Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. I just want you. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else will do. I just want you. No, nothing else, my Lord. Nothing else, my Lord. Nothing else will do. I just need you. No, nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. She said, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. She tell him, I just want you. Nothing else, no, nothing else, nothing else will do.